Hi, Luke from Korg here, and today we're looking at the Opsix Mark II. This is our digital synth that can take you way beyond traditional FM. It's also available in a module version, which is also rack mountable. What we've done with the Mark II version is we've doubled the polyphony to give you more voices, so from 32 to 64. Okay, let's dive in and have a listen. So the architecture of this synth is based around the vintage DX synths from the 80s. So you've got your 6 operators, but then we've expanded the capabilities of those. So what we've done here with the Opsix is we've actually brought out some of the controls onto the panel, because traditionally FM synthesis is very difficult to program, because back in the day a lot of these parameters and controls were buried beneath a screen. So here's an example of a kind of initialized sound, if you like. We've just got a sine wave, which traditional FM was based around. And if I press my analyzer here, I can actually see that that's a sine wave. I can change the level of that operator 1 here. And we've got 6 of these operators. And they're color coded as well. So the ones that are pink here are called carriers. So they're the ones you actually hear. And then the ones that are kind of mauve color, they're modulators. And it tells you there at the top what they're doing. And they're the ones that can manipulate the carriers to create effects. So for instance here, if I bring up the level of this one, you can see that waveform automatically becomes more complex from your original sine wave, adds more harmonics. And you can also change what we call the ratio with these knobs. So that takes you through the harmonic series. And you can do the same thing with your modulators as well, to create, again, more complex sounds. Another big part of FM are the algorithms. So if I go back to my home screen here, you'll see this is telling me the algorithm, and we can easily change that. So let's select a different sound and hear what an effect that can have on the sound. So as I change the algorithm, you'll hear it's changing, sometimes quite dramatically. And in the original DX synths, you had 32 of these different routings, different algorithms. You'll see as well, as I'm changing that, these knobs are changing their colours to signify whether they're carriers or modulators. What we've done with Altered FM in the Opsix is we've expanded the amount of algorithms. So there's some new ones. Plus, we've added this one, which is a user algorithm, so you can actually program the routings completely yourself. So you can get sounds like this, for example, using a user algorithm. But then we can go into the menu and we can actually start tweaking that out. And changing the sound up a bit. So another way we've expanded FM with the Opsix is the ability to use different waveforms. So in traditional FM, it was just sine waves, but now we've got access to lots of different waveforms, including things like saw waves. So we can take it away a little bit from your traditional sound and FM synth to more like a regular analog modeling synth or something. And you can access all of the functions via these controls. So these are categories, and then these 6 knobs here map to the parameters. So for instance, if I press mode, you can see that's showing me now that that particular operator 1 there is a saw wave, and I can go into my list and see all of the different waveforms and then select the one I want. And I can also go through my different operators here, 1 to 6. And you can see, in that case, they're all saw waves. Let's select a different sound. So this one, as you can see, has a different waveform. It has a blue noise waveform to get this kind of sound, which is, again, very different. We've also added extra FM modes as well. So you can see some of those along the top here. There's actually 6 in total. And again, I can just scroll through in this screen the different modes. So I can say, okay, I've got FM mode, regular FM, ring modulation, filter mode, filter FM mode, wave folding, effect mode as well. And each different operator can have its own FM mode, which is great. I can actually hold down shift there and change each one individually, as you can see. So this one, for example, is an effect mode using a comb filter, which again is very non-FM sounding. So you can get a kind of pseudo piano type sound, or using wave shaping, something like this. And of course you can recreate all of those classic FM 80s patches in here very accurately. In fact, you can even import vintage DX synth patches as well. So you can recreate sounds like this, electric piano. And nice layered sounds like this. Or bells. And of course, great bass sounds. So as you can hear, you've got some really nice pads built into the Opsix, and that sound is really possible because we actually have filters in the Opsix. Normally in an FM synth you wouldn't have filters built in, but we have here. So if I press filter, you can see we've got cutoff and resonance, which I can change. So we can brighten up the sound a bit or mellow it out, add some resonance. But you've also got a choice of different filters. You can see we're using a low pass filter, 12 dB there, but we can change it to 24. But we've also got models of some of our classic synths like the MS-20 and the Poly 6, as well as high pass filters, band pass filters, all sorts of different sounds to make your pad sounds with. You've got a powerful modulation matrix built into the Opsix as well, and you can access that via the virtual patch section. So shift there, virtual patch will take me to the screen where I can see my routing, and you've got 12 different possibilities, and they can be routed anywhere, such as the mod wheel, for example. So on this particular sound here, we've got this nice glass waves patch, and then on the mod wheel we can change the ratio. And you can assign a single parameter or even multiple parameters to it as well. So here's another example. Nice bell sounds. And then on the mod wheel, we're bringing in some FM feedback. So you may have noticed I've been recalling some of my sounds from the favourites, and there's 16 of those, but there's actually 4 banks of them as well. They're arranged over the keyboard, so they're in a really handy place. I can change bank just by holding down shift and going into bank B there, as you can see the different colours, and then I can recall all of my sounds. We've also got smooth sound transitions built in as well, SST for short. That basically means you can play a sound and then change, and the previous sound will remain. So you get that really nice sustain of your previous sound, whether that's the decay of the sound or the release or reverb as well. You can also use it in a more creative way. So for instance, I can hold this sound with my sustain pedal on the floor and then switch to a new sound. and they'll both remain. And maybe I want to do that again with a different chord. So the effects section in the Opsix is actually incredibly powerful. You've got 3 effects blocks and some great reverbs, delays and other effects in here. Here's an example. So that's a shimmer reverb. But you've also got other effects like this guitar modelling, for example. Not the sort of sound you'd normally expect to hear coming out of an FM synth. Let me show you how easy it is to dial in your effects as well. So let's take this sound, which is called deep space. And if I press effect there, you'll see you've got 3 blocks. And then you can page between them, FX 1, 2 and 3. So on 1 you've got chorus, 2 you've got EQ, 3 you've got reverb. So on the second one there, let's replace that EQ with a guitar amp model. So we've instantly got a more aggressive kind of dirty sound there. Which is great for creating atmospheres. We've got an arpeggiator built in as well, great for making patterns, very easy to use. So take this sound for an example. We can turn on the arpeggiator just by turning it on there. Now you can hear that's in like a trigger mode at the moment, so it's just repeating all the notes I play. But to get deeper into the parameters of the arpeggiator, just hold down Shift and press arpeggiator, and then you'll see this matrix becomes your controls again. So we can change it from trigger to anything from up and down to alternate. So let's put it onto alternate. And let's also change the note value to make it a bit quicker. 16ths. We can also latch it by holding down the arpeggiator button. Change the gate. Snap it up a bit or make it more elongated. And if we go into the filter section, because we've got it latched, we can then play around with the sound a bit more. What's also neat about the Opsix Mark II is the fact that every single sound has its own sequence attached to it, and you can then program that sequence to be something different if you want it to. So all you do is select a sound, press play, it'll play a pattern, which is like a loop essentially. If I then use this button to go out of my favourites mode into sequence mode, you can see that's playing through the 16 steps. If I want to see more detail about that, again I hold down Shift and press sequence. It'll show me an overview of my sequence, but I can page through. I can even press my individual steps and hear what's going on in each individual one and see it on the screen as well, which notes are being played, and I can go in and retrospectively change that as well. Plus it's really easy to make your own sequence as well. So let's select this favourite here, back into sequencer mode. We've got this nice plucky pad sound. I can listen to the sequence already. If I want to change that, just hold down clear, erase all the steps, and again I can go into my sequence page and see the tempo. I want to up the tempo a little bit, so I'm going to put it at something like 120, 121, something like that. And then I can hit record and start stepping in notes. And then I can press play to listen back. And what's really cool is you can record motion into here as well. So let's have a look at the filter. So I could get a little bit of gentle motion going in my sequence by recording it. And And you can see that's happening on the screen there. And you can also see it within the sequence mode and what parameter that has been recorded. Another great feature built into the Opsix is the Randomize button. So that allows you to get really creative with your sound design. The way it works is you just press it and then it brings up this matrix of different things to randomize, which you can choose, single parameters or collections of parameters. And then you can also decide how much you want to randomize by. So how dramatic that randomization is, if you like. Then when you're ready, you just press yes and it will randomize the sound for you. And you can keep trying until you get something that you like. So I've brought in a MIDI controller because I want to show you some of the MIDI connections on the Opsix. This is a key stage, this is one of our controllers, but it could be any MIDI controller. And as you can see, I'm using the module version of the Opsix. The reason I want to show you these two particular units is because they both have MIDI 2.0. So what that means is we can actually read sounds both ways, so they both transfer data, and in order for them to do that you need to make sure both MIDI connections are there. So MIDI out of the key stage into the Opsix, and then MIDI out of the Opsix back in to the key stage. And what that enables you to do is then change sound on the module, say, to a different patch, and then the key stage will read it, or vice versa. I can actually change the sound on my key stage, and as you can see, this is changing for me. So once I've got to the sound that I like, obviously I can trigger it via MIDI, but also here in my displays, it's automatically mapping to parameters in the Opsix. So for instance, operator 1 level, I can change, or some of the other operators, to start tweaking the sound out as I wish. So as you can see, I've brought in my laptop, and this can be a PC or a Mac. And the reason I've done that is I wanted to show you the librarian software for the Opsix that you can download for free from Korg's website. I've got it connected via USB, as you can see. And what this allows you to do is basically choose your sounds and organize your sounds. Plus you can put them into your favorites very easily by dragging and dropping. So you can just grab your sound and then you can just drag it into one of these favorites like that, and then in favorite number 1 there I've got that new electric piano sound. It also tells you the category of the sounds, which is really useful, and the sound designer as well. So that's the librarian. It's also a great way to get sound libraries into your Opsix as well. Another use for USB on the back there, of course, is to connect to your computer to use it for recording with a DAW, for example, and you can use MIDI that way as well. You've also got audio connections, so we've got left and right jacks going to our sound system here, plus you've got a separate headphone feed, you've got your power of course, and I've got my optional sustain pedal on the floor as well. So there you go, that's the Korg Opsix Mark II. Go check it out.